Plane crash? Picture a plane basically wrecked on the ground, like in Lost, crashed on an island, totally smashed up. We need to find the black box to figure out what happened. We look for the black box, but the black box isn't there. Do you know why it's not there? Do you know why we can't find it? Because the black box isn't just one, and it's not black. It's orange. It's orange, I'm not kidding. Today, we're gonna explain what it is, what a box is like, an orange box, what it's made of, what materials it's built from, and how it manages to withstand even the most dramatic crashes. Let's start right away by busting a myth. The black box isn't black, it's orange. And it's not just one. Actually, in most cases, there are two of them. Why orange? So that they're more visible and easier to find during a search. In fact, if you really think about it for a moment, orange is a color that's actually quite rarely found in nature, and that's exactly why it's specifically chosen for this purpose. Actually, experts in the field call it a flight recorder. That's the more accurate and technical term for it. But the question is, why do we all know it as a black box? Where does this mysterious black box name actually come from? There are several different theories about this. The most widely accepted explanation is that it comes from a British military term that was used for secret electronic devices, such as radars, which were kept in black containers on combat aircraft. It's also said that the very first models were painted black, and that the name may have come from the fact that they were often found charred and blackened after fires. Let's just say the name black box is much more popular and colloquial than it is technical, just to be clear. But what does it actually look like in reality? Have you ever seen one up close? What does a black box really look like in actual fact? It's not just a simple box. In reality, it's a heavy armored shell, okay? It's obviously extremely resistant, made up, as I mentioned before, of two separate devices. They're two distinct, separate things that can sometimes be integrated, but generally they're installed separately. The first black box is the so-called CVR, which stands for Cockpit Voice Recorder. As the name suggests, what does this device do? It records the entire audio environment in the cockpit area, the so-called cockpit. So the crew's conversations are recorded, radio transmissions are recorded, and also various ambient sounds, any warning alarms, movements of the controls, and so on. Modern CVRs typically record and store the last 2 hours of information, continuously overwriting the oldest data. The second black box is the so-called FDR, which stands for Flight Data Recorder, or Flight Data Recorder, which is a device that collects a wide, extremely wide range of information, such as data about the aircraft's performance, configuration, and the environment outside the aircraft during flight. In other words, it records additional details about how the aircraft operates and the conditions it experiences while in the air. The data recorded can actually vary. There are a lot of them, and they mainly depend on the model and age of the aircraft, but by law, they must save 5 basic parameters. Time, meaning all the information must be recorded according to the time. Pressure altitude or barometric altitude, magnetic heading, indicated airspeed, and vertical acceleration. The FDR stores the last 25 hours of operation and saves information by overwriting the oldest data. In the past, CVRs and FDRs were analog, so they were obviously very different. They used magnetic tapes to record all the data. Today, of course, modern models are different. They are solid state and store information on memory cards. These are kept in what is called the Crushed Survivable Memory Unit, or CSMU for short, a small, compact stack of memory cards that are carefully protected by a special insulating layer, mainly for the purpose of providing thermal insulation, and by a robust shell made of hardened steel, or in some cases titanium, obviously to withstand extremely strong impacts. This unit preserves all the aircraft's vital data, the ones that could obviously help. For investigators to thoroughly reconstruct and analyze the dynamics of the accident, and more specifically to protect these crucial devices, flight recorders are usually installed in the rear part of the plane, typically in the tail section. And obviously, that's not by chance, because the tail section of the aircraft is generally the part that suffers the least amount of damage in the event of a crash. In fact, the front part of the plane acts as a sort of crumple zone, absorbing much of the impact energy by deforming to dissipate the energy of the impact. But obviously, that's not nearly enough. To truly be considered crash-proof, black boxes are rigorously tested, as you can imagine, and they have to meet a very specific and demanding technical standard, the EuroKED 112A, which sets out the resistance criteria, such as, for example, impact shock. They have to withstand, just imagine, 3,400 grams static crushing. They are pressed with a force of 5,000 pounds, so we're talking about roughly 2 tons on all 6 sides for 5 minutes each. High temperature fire, they have to endure, get this, 1,100 degrees Celsius for 60 minutes. They also have to withstand prolonged low temperature fire, so they must handle 260 degrees Celsius for 10 hours. They also have to withstand deep water immersion, enduring up to 6,000 meters underwater for 30 days. In the event of an accident at sea, of course, flight recorders are equipped with an underwater locator beacon, ULB, designed to continuously emit an ultrasonic locator signal for safety and retrieval purposes, aiding in recovery. But that's not all. These black boxes also have to withstand, imagine this, being submerged for 24 hours in fuel, oil, and other liquids to test the integrity of their seals. They have to be something incredible. They have to withstand everything, really. They also have to be resistant to penetration, meaning, for example, they must withstand a 227 kilogram weight being dropped from 3 meters onto a steel pin at the most vulnerable point of the module. Basically, they run a ton of tests on these black boxes. When a plane crash happens, recovering the black box becomes an absolute priority, right after searching for survivors. Now, here's a question. Once these so-called black boxes are found after an accident has occurred, what exactly happens to them next? I mean, where do they actually go from the crash site? Once these crucial flight data recorders are located by investigators, they are carefully retrieved as quickly as possible and then sent to highly specialized laboratories, such as the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, which is based in Washington, D.C., or the AAIB, which stands for the Aircraft Accident Investigation Branch, located in the United Kingdom. And, of course, the security of the sensitive data they contain is kept under extremely strict control, with round-the-clock, 24-hour protection in place to make absolutely sure that the evidence isn't tampered with or altered in any way, of course. Once they arrive at the specialized laboratory facility, the recorders then undergo a very thorough and detailed analysis in order to carefully assess their overall condition, and advanced state-of-the-art technologies are used to convert the raw information into a format that can actually be understood by experts. The data from the flight's black box, not the voice recorder, provides a technical overview of the flight itself, recording parameters like altitude, speed, and position, as we've seen, but in reality, there are many more. These data are compared with reference values to identify any anomalies, meaning discrepancies from the standard. Meanwhile, the detailed and thorough analysis of the data that has been collected from the other black box, which is known as the CVR, the cockpit voice recorder, just to be absolutely clear, focuses specifically on everything that is related to the human aspect, conversations between crew members, background noises, and various sounds that could potentially reveal crucial and important details about what was actually happening in the cockpit at the time, and of course, any possible mistakes or errors that might have contributed to causing the accident. The analysis process can often take several weeks or even many months to complete, but the careful combination of this valuable data with highly advanced techniques makes it possible to reconstruct even extremely complex events with truly unparalleled precision. In the end, the data that has been thoroughly collected doesn't just explain what exactly happened, but also provides valuable and concrete guidance for ongoing improvements in air safety. This is absolutely fundamental. That is, taking into account all feedback, even from disasters, even from catastrophic accidents, in order to improve the entire world of civil aviation as a whole. So this means improving operational procedures, enhancing pilot training itself, and as a result, reducing the risk of accidents and increasing overall flight safety. This video about black boxes was needed because in the year 2025, there were several accidents, including some fatal ones. In fact, the statistics for the year 2025 show that it was a worse year compared to 2024. But this does not mean that flying is becoming more dangerous overall. These are simply spikes, isolated data points. If we look at all the available data from the last 50 to 60 years, the information is clear. The airplane is by far the safest means of transportation. That said, thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the end. If you have any questions or are curious about this topic, leave us a comment below. I'll see you in the next video.